go to court on matters. He's going to take his time. He's following on the Auditor General and other investigative bodies to help in gathering the right evidence before he goes to court. All that you heard yesterday, your general take of it.
Well, Dave, it's chalk and cheese. Yesterday I spoke to 4 lawyers because there were some who believe that what the Attorney General is doing is a bit prejudicial. That's why the monarch kept using the word allegedly. Some are uncomfortable with the press conference because it seems to, speak about the integrity of some people even before they go to court. But yesterday he said that he had the charge sheet, he's filing on Friday and all that. For me, I believe that because of how the NDC won and they themselves, what they told us, let's not forget that in February, when they submitted over 200 cases, Okudjeto's presentation, and people insulted me on Facebook, but I said that I don't believe it was realistic, that the target of $21.9 billion, that is 7 times IMF. I was a bit hesitant on the figure, but he quoted it. The Deputy Attorney General on GH1 2 days ago said that figure is not realistic.
Yeah.
So clearly, there's some
which means it will be less than that.
Less than that.
Yeah.
So because of how corruption was a key thing in the Kufuor regime, because of how the NDC also advertised oral to be a process to recover, for me, the press conference is good enough for him to announce. Then also, he's a doctor of law. The doctor is not a honorary; it's a doctor in law. He has a PhD in law. I don't have it. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer. Sorry, I've never practiced law. So there's no constitutional breach. I am looking at it from the score of accountability to the people based on how they came into government. On that score is good. Now, yesterday he gave updates. I don't know whether I should add that.
Yes, because that was going to be my next question as to how many cases, have they investigated thoroughly and fully that are in court? How many are pending? Where are we with them? What are the cases in itself? Because the pending cases, we have the games we play, the AFCON or something.
Yes, so I'll explain them to you.
So
the investigation, as according to Attorney General, this is according to Graphic Online. I have the full script of his address, and I'm quoting, so that our investigations have diligently concluded. Our investigators have diligently concluded investigating the following cases. So these cases have been concluded. SkyTrain. What is the SkyTrain scandal? GIF, the Ghana Infrastructure Investment Fund, signed a certain contract with a company from South Africa, but the company was incorporated somewhere in, I think, Namibia, where they were going to do SkyTrain. There was traffic in Accra, Kumasi, and they were thinking that they would need to also convey people using trains. So they decided to build the trains in the sky. That is where the name SkyTrain comes from. When they did the incorporation of the company in Namibia, Ghana invested some $2 million from it. But when the Auditor General somewhere 2018-2019 audited the account of GIF, then the board chair was the respected Ameya Kofi, the former minister in the Kufuor regime. Then also Solomon, I think Asante also as the CEO. They could not account for the receipt of the $2 million. The former railway minister, Joe Gart, the former attorney general, was also investigated and cleared. Solomon Asante was actually arrested. Professor Ameya Kofi was arrested, and Kennedy had to stand surety for him. Solomon spent almost 2-3 weeks in jail because he couldn't meet the bail conditions. So that is the SkyTrain. Another investigation we concluded according to Attorney General is the National Service Ghost Names, which when we were all quoting some 540 million, according to him, after the Auditor General yesterday, he showed the audited report. After the Auditor General concluded a forensic audit of the entire NSS scheme, from 540 million cedis, we are now hitting 2.2 billion when it comes to the NSS scandal. What is that? That is also about Osei Benchi and his deputies, ghost names, and some also going to bank using counterfeited documents to be able to secure funds from banks and using ghost names to pay off those debts.
And for that, let's just also add to the fact that Gitawari, has been granted a
10 million CDB. Yeah. The third one is the drip. Now, the Attorney General also alleges that some $176 million was used to procure the machines when it comes to drip, which came somewhere August 2024. The JA Pool Plant Limited was the company that brought in the machines. Now, David, this was the Attorney General says. When they went into the invoice and the government of Ghana paid in tranches, when they did the total sum, it came to $178 million, meaning that some 2 million cedis cannot be accounted for. Now, what they also did was that when they went to the port to track the quantities that came into the country, they realized that some of the quantities were double. They succeeded the company, the JAPU, and he mentioned the name, inflated the quantities of equipment under the scheme. So they also evaded tax at the port to the tune of 38.7 million. Now, when I did the math, in 2024, the dollar was on average about 14-15 Ghana cedis. So that's also around 30 million cedis. So that also amount about 68.7 million when it comes to the drip equipment. Now he is also saying that he has occasioned the Auditor General to do another forensic audit and the GRA, and he believes that the amount may come to the same figure of around 68, that is $2 million, and the 38.7 tax evasion at the port, and or it may even go up. The next one is the National Lotteries, where there was a contract between the KGL Company Limited that ran the Caritas platform, the NLA Mobile, and all that, and how some of these funds were used. So that's the NLA scandal. Now, the Pualugu Multipurpose Dam, that scandal is about 11.9 million, where the contractor claimed that was mobilization. The dam never saw the light of day. It was supposed to reduce the excess flooding that is caused by the spillage of the Bagri Dam, and also serve as an agricultural dam to construct a tomato factory in there, because Pualugu, just like a Commandant, is a haven for that tomato business. That's almost $12 million. Let me just end it like that. The next one that be concluded, the SML scandal. What's the SML scandal? Credit to Manasa during the fourth estate when he used to be with them. The SML scandal is basically about the downstream sector, where allegedly the GRA then under Kenoforiata's ministry, the finance ministry, said that they couldn't track the activities or taxes that they get in the downstream sector. Now, when Manasa did the investigation, they spoke to the former CEO for MPA, who is now being charged by the OSP, Sheikh Mustafa Hamid, doctor, who said that the MPA even had the better system and facilities to track. So Ghana, you have two sectors, the upstream and the downstream. The upstream is in charge, or the institution in charge is the GMPC. The downstream is the MPA. So the downstream is basically about the OMCs and BOST, right? That is the Total, Shell, Frames, those Star Oil, those companies. GRA said they couldn't track them. So they brought in another company, which is the SML. Now, David, what is curious in this transaction is that the former directors of GRA turn out to be the directors of SML. Now, it is alleged that in 2019, based on receipts the fourth estate showed, the government of Ghana in 2019, through authorized by Kenoforiata, paid them 1.9 billion cedis. No, paid them 1 billion cedis in 2019. So when you read the 5 cases that the OSP is standing on to say that Kenoforiata should be extradited, the key one is the SML deal. That has also been concluded. The next one is the Frontiers Health Services, where during COVID-19, some company we believe has roots in Nigeria came into the country, charged $150 to test people for COVID-19.
Sputnik V, yeah?
No, that's different from Sputnik V. That is
okay.
the Frontiers.
Okay.
They were rather testing people that were coming into the country, whether they had COVID or not, and charging 150 cedis. The contract will be shaded. There was a lot of talkability about it. They concluded investigation on that according to Attorney General. The next one is the free Wi-Fi, where senior high schools were promised internet access and all that, with busy internet and all that. There's a bit of allegation in there. That has also been concluded. And the national ambulance, that is also hovering around $40 million, where certain spare parts bought for the one constituency, one ambulance program, there were some issues where allegedly involving the daughter of the former president. So that has also been concluded. Then, David, what is curious for me with the Bankra? Once we were thinking that the Bankra has not been, done and all that, it's been alleged that the contract involving that transaction also has some fraudulent activities in there. The last one that has been concluded is the Sputnik V vaccine, where we saw a parliamentary committee, but we never saw the report. There were 2 reports, the Fenyomakin and Minta Kando Committee, where the former member of parliament for Doma Central, Honorable Kweku Ajimamenu, the former health minister, allegedly bought vaccines that the prices were inflated. Now, he didn't go through any parliamentary ratification per the laws of Ghana. Anytime the government of Ghana is signing any contractual obligations with a foreign entity, it needs to go through. There was no parliamentary approval. When you watch him at the committee, he said that because there was an emergency, he stood on a certain EI, executive instrument, to do what he did. That investigation has also been concluded. And then the last one is the land issues, where people bought land as cheap as cantonment land as cheap as 40,000, 50,000 cedis and all that. Now, these cases are also investigations ongoing. Pending. So the ones I listed are concluded, investigation concluded. These are ongoing. The All African Games, where allegedly about some $300 million were used to build the Botima Sports Complex, some ticketing, some accreditations, how the contracts were inflated, and that's ongoing. The mathematical set, where we bought one mathematical set for some 75 Ghana cedis, somewhere 2018, 2020 under Napo as education minister. And Napo even made it public, speaking to that he's been invited by Yoko several times on that matter. The Bank of Ghana building is also being investigated. Then the stadium renovations has also been investigated, and the National Cathedral. Now, the issue of the National Cathedral is that there was an audit, but the Attorney General says that per the brief he's receiving, he's occasioned one of the top fours. You know, Ghana have top four in the world. We have top four auditing firms, KPMG, Deloitte, Ernst & Young, and all that. He occasioned one of them to work with the current Auditor General to do a forensic audit of the National Service Cathedral. So, of the about 12 scandals, the concluded ones are the SkyTrain, then NSS Ghost Names, DRIP, National Lottery Scandal, the Pualugu Dam, SML, Frontier Self-Care, Free Wi-Fi, National Ambulance, Buankra, the Sputnik V, and the Land. That is 12. The ongoing ones are the All African Games, the Mathematical Set, the Bank of Ghana building, the stadium renovation, and the National Cathedral. That is also 5. So 17 cases.
But many of us were amazed, alarmed at the figures that was bundled around in reference to that of Gifjawari, and code. That's the National Service, Secretariat Authorities scandal. Yeah. But yesterday he also came out and shared with us that of the buffer stock scandal. Yeah. That in itself is also so crazy, so alarming, so disturbing, so worrying. Yeah. What did he say? Did he say about the buffer stock? Because this is that's the one he described as the Rambo in the jungle.
Let me read for you. He said that now to the buffer stock investigation, which I nicknamed the Rambo in the jungle. As of March 2025, when we announced the arrest and detention of suspects, Kwamina Dubois and the wife Angela, the Yoko has gathered credible intelligence regarding a criminal enterprise that had been operated by the former CEO of the National Food and Buffer Stock Company Limited, Mr. Hanan Abdul Wahab. Initial estimate put the amount pilfered. You went to Montijo. What's it? Is it pilfered? Pilfered. Okay. By Mr. Abdul Wahab and his collaborator at the time, 58 million cedis. Fine in excess of the 49 million cedis suspected to have been stolen by Kwabena Dubois and co-accused persons. I called the criminal enterprise by Mr. Abdul Wahab and his collaborators at the buffer stock, the Rambo in the jungle, not only because of the huge amount of money at stake, but because of the fact that while food supplies were wailing and gnashing their teeth due to failure to pay them for supplies to the buffer stock, and while our school kids were being denied nutrition under the school feeding program for lack of funds, Mr. Abdul Wahab and his collaborators were busy lawlessly looting funds meant for the program. That is a jungle behavior. The informal meaning of the word Rambo is to discover an illicit activity or its perpetuation. Through painstaking investigations, Yoko discovered this illicit criminal enterprise run by a gang of corrupt, lawless officials at the buffer stock. Now let's go to the summary of the findings. On June 25, 2025, the Yoko conducted a coordinated operation based upon the initial investigation, which resulted in the arrest of Mr. Ahab, a former CEO of the buffer stock, his wife, Fozia Seidu, and James Atiku, the buffer stock manager for Northern Sector, who was based in Tamale. The operation also led to the arrest of Emmanuel Arthur, the head of corporate affairs of the buffer stock. The arrest followed initial intelligence and assessment by Yoko, which suggested that while serving as CEO for buffer stock between 2017 and 2024, Mr. Ahab colluded with his wife Fozia and some for the finance department, the corporate manager, and others to create an elaborate criminal enterprise that was used to steal and launder public funds from the buffer stock company. While within the period 2017 and 2024, Wahab, in connection with Richard Sam Asante and Bismarck Owusu Boache, orchestrated the transfer of 78.2 million Ghana cedis. If you want the exact figure, it's 78,269,084 Ghana cedis from the bank account of the buffer stock company to a private company linked to Hanan, his wife, and the staff of buffer stock company at Republic and Ecobank. Evidence showed that the funds were instantly retransferred to companies owned by Hanan himself and companies and entities owned by his associates and the wife. Similarly, evidence showed that between December 2017 and May 2019, Ahab transferred 5,495,748.36 pesos from the buffer stock company to two banks belonging to Aludibi Enterprise at a public bank and ABSA, a company he owns. Aludibi Enterprise is a registered supplier of the buffer stock. Hanan, between October 2019 and January 2022, also orchestrated some transferred Some transfer amount of 11.9 million to an entity owned by a staff of Buffer Stock and later instructed the staff to retransfer the funds to a company owned and run by Hanan and the wife. In July 2022, investigation found that Hanan also transferred 251,000 from the account of Buffer Stock at Republic Bank to a company known as Energy Partners Limited, a company co-owned by Hanan and Emmanuel Atta, the corporate affairs manager of Buffer Stock. Energy Partners is not a service provider for Buffer Stock, yet another company that they were paying money to. The evidence gathered so far shows that they ran this criminal enterprise under the pretense of supplying food items to schools under the school feeding program. Now, David, he goes further to list some of the things allegedly that Mr. Hanan, through the syndicate you ran together with staff of the Buffer Stock company, bought. Now let me go through them. Allegedly by the Attorney General, he bought a 5-bedroom house at Chain Homes to the tune of $1,625,000. So $1.6 million house at Chain Homes in Accra. He also bought allegedly 3-bedroom homes at Cantonment. That is $600,000. He also allegedly bought plot of land at Airport Development to the tune of $750,000. He also bought a 17-bedroom boutique hotel at Gunami in Tamale. That is also $250,000. He bought a 4-bedroom bungalow situated at Jolu in Accra for 4.1 million Ghana cedis. Then he also purchased a 0.2-acre government land at 307,000 Ghana cedis. Beyond that, he also, these are the monies he transferred to the companies or laundered through the companies. He created 4 companies. Sortina Enterprise. He transferred 16.1 million one time, another time 23.9 million, another time 500,000 cedis, another time 550,000 cedis. All that comes to 40.4 million. If you want the exact figure, it's 40,493,102 Ghana cedis. And allegedly, his salary was only 28,000, whilst his wife was also being paid, whether by him or the company, that was not established, by 5,000. So they had a joint account as a couple. Every month, the salary was roughly around 33,000.
And with that said, we also know that he owned watches. That one was costing 1.5 million Ghana cedis.
And the wife
had about 61 luxurious bags.
bags.
61 luxurious. And did they give a figure to the bags, the luxurious bags?
The Attorney General said that they are yet to quantify. They have to speak to the Auditor General to do that.
The good news is that they're going to court on the matter tomorrow.
So he's filing the charges
tomorrow.
So what will happen is that when I spoke to the lawyers, when the charges are filed, Hanan will be arranged before court. Then they will take his plea, just like the gifted, whether
so
he
pleads
guilty
tomorrow.
or not. But if he pleads guilty, it means that he will be convicted based on his guilty plea. If he pleads not guilty, the threshold is that the Attorney General and the prosecutor have to prove.
Definitely.
Yes.
And again, the good news is that his assets has been frozen.
Yes, but there's also a statement by Hanan, and for the benefit of fair hearing, I believe that we also need to read the statement of Hanan. Yesterday, just when the investigation came out, he released a press statement on his Facebook page, and it's still there as we speak. David, let me quickly get it for you. He says that, basically, he is trying to say that he is not guilty. He is surprised by the accusations the Auditor General, the Attorney General has been leveled against him, and his lawyers stand ready to defend him in court. Yes.
What does this whole thing say about a corruption fight? Does it give you hope and conviction that we're on the right track and that the outcomes will be as a deterrent?
In 2019, Akufo-Addo said that 21 NDC appointees were before court. Nothing happened. This government came and filed in some of the cases, filed a nullius prosequa, and per the law, the Attorney General doesn't even hold or doesn't owe us an explanation why he files a nullius prosequa. So I'm not too hopeful. My hope is that we should recover. I'm not really focused on jail terms. The jail there may be, but for me, David, these monies and these assets are sellable. Because the Chuma is a businessman, has money. That's why they can buy them. You sell to them and get money. For me, it's about the recovery of the funds.
And also how much we can recover?
Yes, so for me, the foremost thing is not jail. The foremost thing is recovery.
But how much we're going to be able to recover is
I don't know that.
That's also of a concern to me.
Okay, but the point is also that 3 questions. Because I have never worked in the public sector except national service. 1, do these state entities have internal auditors? Because when you listen to the scheme, the corporate affairs manager is involved, the finance department is involved. And if they have these auditors there, as Leo was asking when we had the FOIA, how often do they do these audits? when adverse findings are made, who do they report to? Because David, nobody can convince me that David, you are transferring 20.6 through the banks, Republic Bank, Eco Bank, ABSA, and all that. I'm not accusing them of anything. But even the banking sector, the Bank of Ghana, they need to be answering questions to us. How are these monies being transferred?
Because it's not just even a one-off transaction.
Exactly. And nobody is raising red flags. It doesn't make sense.
Series of transactions.
David, for me, this gentleman allegedly, this is what we are being told. The question is, auditors, are these institutions, what are they doing? 1, 2, the banks. Are they saying that anybody can just transfer monies and there's no David may say $100? I filled about 3 forms. CBDK University branch.
It's amazing.
When I created my YouTube channel, right? And YouTube said with achievement, I had to go to Access Bank. Access Bank now branch. I'm a come, right?
Yeah.
To fill forms. $150, $100. We fill forms. Why are they transferring these ones? David, yesterday when I read the witness statement of Mildred in the Dubois case,
yeah,
you remember what she also said? Yeah. So the banks, is it that the politicians are treated as some special dispensation?
Exactly what it
because
is.
When you go to the bank, it's money written, money laundering. What have all bank? Nani jetri and abrawa bo saying. Accounts are not or before he came into government. Saying. So if the person is transferring all this money, the third leg of the conversation, David, for me, the auditor general, what they do is comedies to me. You cannot report crime after. Then we now go and chase it. Before the crime happens, are we saying that our audit system is sad that we cannot track some of these findings?
And I told you during the online
it doesn't make
time
sense.
that they can, but they won't do it.
Yeah. So
they won't do it because of the fear.
Yeah, it raises the question of not just politicians moving money around, but even
public
like fraud, people who are into fraudulent activities like online scams and stuff. All these people are also moving millions of dollars and spending it on cars and luxury
luxurious stuff, yeah.
And nobody is tracing them. Do we have to sit down for FBI to fly in?
But look at the way they even establish businesses.
Yeah.
I mean,